perfectly. Welcome to my second session. We're going to talk about VMware Lifecycle Management in combination with Dell OpenManage and NVIDIA's vGPU Manager, which probably no one has ever heard before. Let's get started. My name is Marc Huppert. I'm a principal consultant or principal architect at Computacenter in Germany. I'm doing the VMware stuff since nearly 25 years right now. I started with ESX 1.0, which was a pain in the ass to configure it at a fiber channel environment and all this kind of stuff, so a long time ago. Sometimes my wife complains that I'm addicted to it and I'm doing VMware 24/7. I have a huge home lab where all the screenshots and all the configuration that I'm going to show right now are going to come from. First of all, I'm going to talk about the lifecycle management overview, default VMware stuff, how to configure it, how to integrate vendor management, integrate drivers, and then comes the fun part, the Dell OpenManage integration for firmware updates automatically on their systems, as well as the NVIDIA vGPU Manager integration. NVIDIA's vGPU is a technology where you can partition your GPU and attach those partitions to different VMs. You probably need VIP modules on your ESXi host for it and drivers inside your virtual machines. How to update those VIP modules for the vGPU Manager. There is a complete new integration where I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Activity, upgrading vSphere. How do vSphere Lifecycle Manager cluster images, ensure consistent software across all hosts? In the past, 99% of my customers, including me, going to use the baselines. So patch planning was just informing other people I'm performing the patching. That's it. And on patch day, I attached those baselines, scanned it, they found new patches, click on remediate, which means patching. That time is gone. Now we have those cluster images. What's going to happen? It replaces the baselines with those cluster images. And the name, a baseline could be attached to a host. An image is attached to a cluster. What's going to happen if you're mixing hardware vendors inside one cluster? The official answer is it's not supported anymore. When I'm performing as a VCI, the first vSphere 8 What's New training at a customer in Switzerland, the customer tells me I have 3 different hardware vendors, 8 years different between those systems in one cluster. It works pretty well. How to do it with cluster images? There's no way. You have to create 3 different clusters. It can't be true. There must be a way around. Yeah, use baselines. But with the cluster option, with the image option, it's not possible. How to integrate hardware vendor packages? For example, my home lab consists of 100% Dell servers. That's the reason why I'm talking about Dell in a few minutes. So the vSphere Lifecycle Manager, aka old Update Manager. The Update Manager has this feature of baselines. The Lifecycle Manager has the feature of images. How to configure it, access it, and then you have this option, the ESXi version, the base image. You can attach components, vendor add-ons, and then firmware and driver add-ons. That's an official VMware slide. The one that says firmware and driver add-on bundles, you can use for a cluster image. Sorry about that. You have to perform it through a hardware support manager, HSM. How to get those hardware support managers and where to get it from. We have this option within VMware, this image depot. So the vCenter basically calls home, downloads a new XML file. Hey, we have a new version available. The new version pops up here. You can choose it. That's it. That's the base version. In the past, several of my customers are going to use the OEM custom images. I hate them. especially the HPE version. Why? They pack in so much stuff inside that, for example, when you're using an HPE custom image and install a GPU later, you're going to get this nice error message, boot bank is full. You have to get rid of all the stuff that's inside those systems, and especially HPE has memory leaks in the past with those software options. Some people at VMware told me the custom OEM images will not be available anymore. They're going to get totally rid of it. The new option, going to get back, sorry. The new option is this one. You choose the base image, you choose components, you like to integrate, you choose vendor add-ons, choose it wisely. Do you really need those vendor add-ons? For example, none of my servers, all are Dell, have any vendor add-on installed. Why? I don't need them. Check it out if you need those vendor add-ons, if you really need it. It could be a pain in the ass to update those in a new version. So we're talking about concentrating on firmware and vendor drivers. Creating a cluster and specify an image. We have this option, manage all hosts in the cluster with a single image. It could be only done if all your servers are from the same vendor, within the same generation. Don't mix Gen 8, Gen 9, Gen 10, Gen 11, and all this kind of stuff. 14G, 15G, 16G generation. That's the first option. You have the second option, manage configuration at a cluster level. That's a different story. Right now we're talking about only the image version. And then you choose an image that you like to use at the cluster environment itself. It's going to be used at all hosts inside the cluster. Customizing those cluster images is kind of easy. You choose the cluster, then updates, then image, and then edit the image. That's it. Kind of easy. Yeah, but only the official parts. How to integrate stuff from the vendors. Official statement from the documentation website from VMware says, several of the major OEMs develop and supply hardware support managers. For example, Dell, HPE, Lenovo, Hitachi, Cisco, and so on. The only one that really works is the Dell OpenManage, my experience. Yeah, there are others, but for example, the HPE OpenView has to be installed and licensed for everything to get it up and running. OpenManage is kind of easier, kind of. You have different hardware support managers. For example, I'm going to talk about the OpenManage Enterprise plugin as well as the NVIDIA vGPU Manager. Kind of strange name because NVIDIA vGPU Manager is the same name of the software whip that is going to be installed within ESXi. This here is a dedicated appliance you can download from NVIDIA. It's an OVA file called NVIDIA vGPU Manager. I'm going to show it in a few minutes. Everything that I have done, and this presentation is based on it, is my home lab. I'm not going to license all my cores for Broadcom, for example. But there are 43 physical servers, 17 GPUs, and all this kind of stuff. Before you're asking, 30,000 kilowatt hours of power consumption per year, not per month. Invest into your career and invest into knowledge. And I have several other talks about that, including blog posts. Let's get started with the Dell OpenManage Enterprise appliance. You download it, and in the new version, it is more snappy, the UI. The reason behind that, they doubled the resources. From 4 vCPUs to 8, from 32 gigs to 64 gigs of memory for this virtual machine, just for hardware management. Jesus, you said, yeah. You could drill it down. For example, it could manage 10,000s of Dell machines. If you just have 43, you could drill it down. You could halve it, cut it half, but don't go any further because it's not going to boot anymore. I tested it out. So the next thing, you're going to log into OpenManage Enterprise, normal Dell management. So who of you have ever seen a German OpenManage console? Yeah. So within this OpenManage console, you have the console and plugin option, and then you're going to see there an OpenManage Enterprise integration for VMware vCenter. Everything else is German. This one is English only because it has no German translation. The installation of this is the first part. So it's a plugin within OpenManage. It's going to be licensed separately. The point is how? Through IDREC licensing. And IDREC licensing means, this is a screenshot of one of my systems. You need the OpenManage Enterprise with Advanced Plus license. You can buy it when buying a server, but you can also buy it later. Attention, there's an old license called OMEVV, OpenManage Integration VMware vCenter. Don't use that license anymore. That product is deprecated and no longer going to be continued. The new one, you need this Advanced Plus license. When this license is applied and you enable the plugin, it created a new group called OpenManage Enterprise VMware vCenter, OMEVV. This group automatically attaches all hosts that you configure. And the configuration is based on the registration of the vCenter within OpenManage. So first step, roll out OpenManage, enable the plugin, attach the license, Advanced Plus license, register vCenter. Through this registration of vCenter, you have the certificate option, you have the option to enable proactive HA. Proactive HA is a vSphere feature from starting vSphere 6.0. Have ever used it before? Anyone ever used it before? Proactive HA? It's kind of cool because the hardware vendors configured a scenario when a hardware is going to die. For example, a PSU is going to get disconnected, a fan stops working, and a network card is down. That's an option where the vendor, in my case Dell, has configured that hardware is going to die. I'm going to send it to quarantine mode. It's comparable to maintenance mode, but maintenance mode, you can override it as an admin. You said, I don't care about maintenance mode, exit and power up VMs on it again or migrate to it. Quarantine mode doesn't allow you that because your hardware is defunct. It's going to get all the VMs migrated off, and then it's going to get this quarantine mode icon. You have to repair the hardware before you can use it again. I have customers who use it. It is only possible through a registration of proactive HA. The same option, Lifecycle Manager, integration. And what that means, going to have here an extra option, advanced monitoring for management pack for area operations. If you want to use area operations, there's a dedicated management pack. You have to configure this advanced monitoring within OpenManage. Now switching gears to vSphere UI. Within vSphere UI, we have this plugin. At the plugin, we have the option host and chassis, and we have different hosts that are available in your environment that has this Advanced Plus license. Without any Advanced Plus license, the host doesn't show up here. You first of all have to install the license on the IDREC base. not in OpenManage, on the server itself. Then you can configure it. And when you have configured it, you configure baselines. Kind of strange, right? In VMware, we call it images to use it. We have to create baselines within the plugin. Those baselines are made in my environment for my 2 different Dell servers. So R740, R740XD. And then repository profile, you could use the default online profile, which just calls home from a Dell perspective. So downloading the new stuff from the Dell website, you can use a repository by yourself. And then you have the option right now on a cluster, images, create this image. 8.0, update 3, vendor add-ons, firmware, and then you could click on the firmware option and choose this OMEVV plugin. Now it's gonna shows up with the baselines you created before. And those baselines are applied now inside an image within VMware. So when you're patching a system, plan your update accordingly, not like in the old days, just informing people I'm gonna do the patching. Inform your people and then create your image with the baseline, with the repository profile, with everything you need for the patch day itself. And then you can combine normal ESXi updates with firmware updates. So first, the ESXi update is going to be applied to the boot bank. The system's going to do a reboot. And after the reboot, the firmware gets kicked in. It takes a little bit longer. If you have a vCenter environment, think about this rebuild timer. You need to adjust it. If you don't, the rebuild gonna kick in. Happened several times in my environment. So, and then you have the option to integrate Dell firmware updates through images. One part done. So within my environment, I have a lot of NVIDIA GPUs. So the firmware, as well as ESXi images, and maybe vendor add-ons could be included. But what's gonna happen with the dedicated VIP modules for NVIDIA GPU? In the past, there is an official procedure. Put the host in maintenance mode, uninstall the module through ESXCLI software VIP, remove -N, NVIDIA ESXi driver version number, reboot ESXi, uninstall the management daemon, reboot ESXi, install the new, reboot ESXi, and then you're ready to go. There must be a smarter way. It is NVIDIA vGPU Manager. This vGPU Manager, newest version is 1.5, is a virtual appliance. You downloaded it directly from NVIDIA. It's kind of strange to find. When you log into NVIDIA, you have to click on non-driver downloads. Click on the last side, there are 8 pages. Click on the last of it, and now you're gonna find the vGPU Manager. 2 vCPUs, 4 gigs of RAM. And when you first power it up again, it says go to the website or use the vSphere Client plugin. Click on this icon, click on the vGPU Manager, and first it comes up and says, I need an NVIDIA licensing portal API key. You need to log into the NVIDIA portal, create this API key, paste it inside here. Without it, and if you don't have access to the NVIDIA software, it is useless for you. API key first. When the API key is gonna inside, you're gonna show up all the different driver versions. Be patient. It took 7 minutes in my environment to load up the list of available vGPU drivers. The reason behind that, it makes a kind of background scan. What kind of GPUs are you using? I'm using a lot of different GPUs, and then maybe that's the reason why it took longer time. And then, when you have the key inside and you downloaded the option, there is the plugin for vCenter. So non-driver downloads, page number 8, the actual version. Then within the vGPU Manager, you see when you have downloaded an option, a driver, manage drivers, in my case, grid 17.2 for ESXi 8. Pops up here, and that's the main trick. When configuring now an image, it doesn't show up under firmware and driver add-ons, kind of strange. It shows up under components, customized components, and then those drivers gonna show up. And it totally integrates into this image concept, except quick boot. That doesn't work. Quick boot, you know, this option within ESXi where only the hypervisor gets reloaded, it's not supported from those NVIDIA drivers. So you have to do a full reboot to get capable of that. Takes a longer time, especially if you have a lot of memory. Some colleagues of mine were visited Dell in Germany. They had a prototype department, and they showed up the newest system with 48 terabytes of memory. 48 terabytes of memory. Huge physical server. You click on power on or you push the button. The fan's gonna start up. So an Airbus A380 engine is gonna start. Then there's attached a VGA cable, a monitor cable. You power up the server, it's making a lot of noise, but you don't see anything on the screen. I'm not very patient. I would have pressed reset several times. Those Dell engineers told us, you have to wait 2 minutes to get the first on the screen, 2 minutes. 48 terabytes of memory. The boot time of that system, 2 hours and 36 minutes. Quick boot is very usable on those kind of servers. If you have, in my case, 1.5 terabytes of memory, the entire boot process, including vGPU, inside a system, gonna took nearly 10 minutes, which is totally okay. The configuration itself, the vGPU manager, if you install the right driver, then, for example, within the newest GPU, it shows up correctly. What does that mean? If you have, for example, like in my case, NVIDIA and NVIDIA L4 GPU, put it in a server, power it up, ESXi, it doesn't find anything. It shows any kind of NVIDIA UUID, but not the correct version. If you have installed the correct driver through this image option, it shows up correctly. And now you could configure the new option, mixed size mode within U3. Your GPU must support it. It's the first time ever you could mix different profiles and different graphic sizes within one GPU. So you're going to have a VDI with 4 gigs of memory. You're going to have a VDI of 8 gigs of memory on the same GPU. Not possible before. You have to configure it here. And then if you use the NVIDIA SMI tool, it going to shows up the correct driver version of the ESXi component. And if you do the same command with vGPU -Q, you can see the different status of all your VDI VMs or AI VMs, including the license status and the driver version. The activity was to upgrade vSphere, how to integrate it. The same image is applied to all hosts in a cluster. You can configure it right now with Dell, with NVIDIA. If you have other server vendors, not Dell, I'm going to pray for you. So figure it out. Maybe it works. I couldn't get it working with HPE. None of the other ones. Contact them, blame them for their plugins. The vendors need to create a hardware support manager that works. The Dell version is working pretty well. So a single image is created for all the different servers you have, baselines in the path through OpenManage, and then you have the option to include firmware updates as well as ESX updates in one step. The old days, the baselines are gone. Now we have to play with the image version. Thank you. Please fill out the surveys.